Okay, I
Okay.
see a message that we're live on YouTube also. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the virtual planning board meeting, February 3rd, 2022. Just want to say that we're being broadcast on two platforms right now. One is live via Zoom and the other is on YouTube. The links, I believe, were in the invitation for both. If you'd like to make a comment during the public hearing, which starts not for a while, it starts at 6:30 on the Port Jeff Library project, you need to log in on Zoom and raise your hand at the bottom of the Zoom menu. At the bottom of the screen is a raise hand, and then you'll be eventually called on to ask any questions that you might have or offer any comments. I'm going to say this again at 6:30, so anyone who wishes to make comment on that application can do so. First item on our agenda tonight is to approve the June 6th, 2022 draft meeting minutes. I think all the board members have actually weighed in on with comments on them, so I think we're in pretty good shape. Can I get, unless anybody has any comments or questions from the board, can I get a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Can I get a second? Laura, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we have 4-0. By the way, Tom Volpus is not with us tonight. One board member is unable to make tonight's meeting. Okay, next item on tonight's agenda is to just note that the next public hearing of the planning board will actually be next Thursday night. I believe we'll start again at 6 o'clock with the public hearing at 6:30, and that's for the Mather Hospital application. We'll be discussing that in work session tonight, but that could be a pretty long public hearing, so that's why we actually scheduled it on its own night. So if you're interested in that project, you can tune in again next week. Okay, Rebecca, we have the trustee report from Trustee Rebecca Cassay.
Great, thank you, Chair Ray. So for your trustee report this week, or this month, this time, we're talking about short-term rentals, continuing that conversation with the Board of Trustees and the mayor, looking at the possibility of modernizing the short-term rental code. We had a work session on this, so anyone tuning in, if you want to learn more about or really watch the real-time discussion on short-term rentals had by the Board of Trustees and the mayor, as well as the conversation about retaining the bluff and that issue, that is on the Board of Trustees work session, which is on Port Jefferson Village's YouTube page. So those meetings can be, that one meeting with those two issues can be tuned into. In short, the short-term rentals, the board is looking to limit short-term rentals to owner-occupied spaces, so not full home rentals for any length less than 30 days. There are many reasons to take that approach. The real estate market being one of them. More accountability as far as, who is being rented out to, all of this. And so that continues to be worked on. I have a meeting tomorrow with our village attorneys to look at the, drafting the code that would then modernize the bed and breakfast code to potentially allow for, a little bit more flexibility as far as folks renting out part of their homes on sites like Airbnb or VRBO. For the short term as well. The bluff, retaining the bluff, that is a huge conversation that's happening right now. Again, I cannot summarize that, I would say, in any time that will be allowable here. So I would just suggest anyone interested, tune in, go on the YouTube page for the Port Jefferson Village and watch that meeting. It's the second half of the work session that was had the most recently. And then as far as planning goes, there's a group of residents who I'm working with on an Arbor Day effort We have secured some trees from the DEC nursery, and we are looking to, we are working with the elementary school. I'm meeting with the folks at the country club, and also hopefully offering trees for little whip trees for $1 each at the farmers market in early May, all for an effort to get more trees back in Port Jefferson Village, as they, we all see that they've been disappearing and not reappearing at a rate that should be. So that is my report.
Okay, thanks. Any questions for Rebecca from the board? No? Okay, thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you all for your work.
Okay. All right, being that we'll start the public hearing for the library in 20 minutes, can we talk a little bit about 304 Main Street in the interim and then come back to that after the hearing?
Sure. Would you like me to bring those Amy DeVito in to discuss?
Sure.
Let's see. I think she should be in attendance. Okay, Amy should be a panelist now. Let me see if that worked.
Hey, Sin, you're not muted.
Okay, I'm trying to set up the stenographer right now, Allison. Can I give her your number?
Sure, that's fine.
All right, Amy, if you are there and you want to unmute and join us, in the meantime, I will pull up the plans and share my screen for 304 Main Street.
Can you hear us okay, Amy?
I don't know, she was not expecting to talk before the public hearing, so she may not.
Okay, we can move to something else if you want, because
Yeah.
we also have toward the tail end of the agenda, 206 Bayview Terrace. I don't know.
Yeah, so I was prepping a quick a draft resolution. It's a standard, that was a standard tree clearing and grading that we had looked at back in the fall, I think in September. And what we were really waiting on, the only reason it wasn't approved at that time was we were still waiting on getting final plans with the actual finalized heights of the walls and locations. They had talked about a couple of like, oh, well, we might move it this way or this way. And we agreed that those could not sign off on those plans until they were finalized. So I did receive in December the updated plans that are now in a final form, and I think that I don't know how much you recall, how much you want me to pull up for you. Let me see if I can share my screen of this. It's just
if you can do just the overall plan, I think would be fine with the walls.
Okay, let me
Grading plan maybe.
Yeah, I'll try to zoom in and let me know how you want me to adjust this, because they are kind of all these plans are big. So when I zoom out, you don't see everything. You see everything, but it's very tiny. So
okay, that's good. If you scroll down a little to the center, I think we could see, but they look okay. Well, you can't read the notes on there, but at least you get the general idea of the grading there.
Yeah. So what's basically been proposed here is for these two walls over here in the this is north. So this is the northeast corner of the property. They'll total just under 6 feet of change in that slope, and they'll create a small area here that is becomes like a tiny yard. The rest of the property, this is an unusually shaped property, and the rest of the property on this side is all wooded. This little triangular shape down here. So this would create like the only usable yard area. They've proposed an extensive landscaping plan using a lot of native vegetation, including river birch, redbud. There are Colorado blue spruce and western arborvitae in there, amongst other plants, along with a number of shrubs and perennials as well. So they've put in drainage to help ensure that both this will be a pool over here, and so there is drainage for backwashing the pool, as well as drainage for the house that will be contained in structures so as not to compromise this wall. Also up here, they have two walls totaling just under 6 feet that will allow for a couple extra parking spots. If you know Bayview Terrace, it's a very narrow road. So it's not a very convenient road to park your car along. Since this only has a single kind of space in front of the garage, they'd want to try to get a couple more for guests.
Okay, and any board members? I think that those were the last issues. So does any board members have any questions on this application? And the reason for collectively having the two walls total less than 6 feet is to avoid or not to avoid, but to not to require a building department review. Is that correct?
It will require a building department review. They will get building permits for this. If the wall is over 6 feet, it is considered a type 1 action under VCRA, or village amendment to the state environmental quality review. So there was some motivation to try to keep it under 6 feet, especially since 6 feet was right about where they needed. They didn't need 7 feet. So it wasn't really a stretch to try to hold it, but they do need just very close to 6 feet. So this has been the plan that they developed. And I think the last time we looked at it, we also looked at their erosion control and sedimentation control plan, their construction access plan as well. And we reviewed all that, and the board at that time was very comfortable with all of those elements, and we were really just waiting on the finalization of the wall locations and heights, so that a final form of the plan could be reviewed and we could know if it had to be listed as a type 1 action. Okay. And it does not need to be, because the walls are under that height.
Okay. Any board members, any questions? No. I think we're good with it.
Okay. I don't know if you want to. I'm not sure about the timing here, but if you want to now go through the points that would be included in a draft resolution and take a vote, or if you want to maybe push this till after the public hearing and we can come back and just vote on this quickly at the end of the meeting.
It's up to you. If you have it available, we could maybe go through it now.
Okay. Let's see. Hey, hold on, let me stop share to start with. So the basic points of, which I don't actually have in a document I can pull up right now, but the basic outline would be recognizing the size and location of this parcel. It's a 15,547 square foot parcel located in the RB2 single family district. The proposal will include landscaping that meets the requirements for natural vegetation for this district. The engineer plans were reviewed by the board along with the drainage and sedimentation plans, and that they were deemed adequate. walls are sufficiently set back from neighboring properties, meeting the code requirements, and proper drainage has been installed. We would set as conditions, the standard conditions, that building permits be obtained for the work done on the property, that they would have 9 months from the date of approval to complete the plan, and they could ask for a one-time extension if needed. That any work that's done in the right-of-way would require authorization from the Department of Public Works, and that the finalized plans would be those, and any further clearing would require a separate application. No further clearing on the site is permitted. And then, that the final thing is always that 2 sets of submitted plans for the chairman's signature to finalize the resolution. As far as seeker is concerned, because this is no longer type 1, it is an unlisted action. I have looked at the SEF parts 1 and 2 and have not identified any major moderate to major impacts that would need to be addressed further. Pretty much the things that could potentially cause a problem would be the drainage and the sedimentation, which we've already covered or adequately controlled. So that said, we still do need to classify the action as unlisted and go through those processes.
Okay. So if we do that now, can you maybe, since we do have a meeting next week and we're going to start at 6, maybe you can circulate the resolution?
That's absolutely fine. In fact, if you want to wait on the vote, and I can put it all in the reso, and we can do all the final votes next week. That's fine. I don't think that would that step on. I think it's minor enough that it doesn't interfere with the other public hearing, right?
Right. I think it'll probably take 5 minutes to do that or less.
Okay.
If you circulate and we have a chance to look at it beforehand, in particular, that could be pretty quickly done before the public hearing next Thursday.
All right. I will do that.
Okay. All right. We do have about 8 or 9 minutes before we can start the hearing. So anybody want to bring up anything while we're waiting? Because we don't want to start the hearing early in case someone is tuning in.
I do have a question about PJ Crossings and the 4th story, which it looks like they're starting now. Excuse me. It's supposed to be set back, right?
There is no 4th story.
It's a 3rd story.
It's
a
a 3rd story. So they opted not to build or to present in their final project a 4th story because with the step back, there was a financial hit for just the construction of the 4th story. So they were able to fit the density that the planning board approved into the 3 stories. And so that's not a 4th. It's technically in by code a 3rd.
Okay, I feel better.
Yes, they're trucking right along over there. They're really making good progress. In my last meeting with them, they're looking at a September open date. So things are progressing over there very, very well.
Wow.
Very good.
Allison,
I'm sorry, do you know if they're starting the 2nd building?
We're still in pre-sub on the 2nd building. So Jen and I had a meeting with Lou Bukowski, I believe it was Tuesday, Jen, going over their latest pre-sub, working on bringing the proposal into code compliance. So he's got some work that he's got to bring back to his team, and then we'll see what they bring us next.
Very good, thank you.
So Allison, removing the 4th story, that's fewer units then?
No, so because they were still, the village was still getting the major public amenity, this was a decision that was made mid-site plan. So nothing's changed from what you approved. The building as approved is being built. Their initial proposal was to do that 4th story with the step backs. But then when they were looking at construction costs, they said that's really just not feasible for the number of units we're putting in. Can we still get that bonus density because you're still getting the major public amenity, the roadway, but have that trickled into the 3-story structure. And I said, well, yeah, you don't have to build the 4th story of a taller building if you can make it work in 3. And they made it work in 3.
Okay.
So it's just as approved. They haven't changed anything since site plan. It's just as stamped and approved.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else have any questions about any other projects or?
I do have
ahead,
a question for Jen. I was looking through the plans that you left. Thank you so much. I was going through it very quickly. Was there a landscaping plan in there?
You know what? I have in the prior submission there was, so I have no reason to believe it's not still there. It was toward the end. I think it's, well, let me look. Yep. So if it starts, there are a lot of sheets. It's L101.
L101. Okay.
Right. And they are planning to landscape all of the parking islands that they're proposing and put in irrigation everywhere. So.
Okay. Because I was looking at how far the new ED is going to jut out from where the surgical ambulatory surgical building is currently, and I'm saying to myself, well, landscaping can tone down a lot of things. So I just wanted to take a look at that. Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else? Anything about anything? Any other project or anything?
I can give an update. The expansion of the DPW building and planning department building has neared completion. We don't have any furniture in the new room yet. I have moved out of the old conference room and into my new office in the backatiest corner. My staff feels like they're taking many a step to get to me, but that's okay. Actually, you can see my new office because Jen, our stenographer's on, and she's coming live from my office. It looks just like the old one. It's blue. So it looks like we're on our way. We're probably not going to get use of the new big room at least until April, because the table is stuck in supply chains. So we have a little bit of time for these COVID numbers to come down, but hopefully by summer, if we do in-person meetings, we will have a lot more room to spread out rather than all of us squeezed into that wee little conference room in the front. So
are you going to have a ribbon cutting party?
No, I'm pretty sure we're just good. I think we're just going to go to work again.
Idea.
It's been 11 months of chaos and construction. It's nice to see my team, in places where they're not basically covered in construction dust at the moment. So we're cleaning up. We're moving forward. But yeah, hopefully by the beginning of summer, if we're in a position where we can all gather in a room together, we'll have a nice space good sized space to do that in. The space is a little bit bigger than the conference room in Village Hall. So to imagine the kind of space you're working with there. But so that's that. There's my little update.
Okay, thank you.
Still 2 minutes left. I don't have anything else to fill it. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Good time for me to say that I said this at the beginning of when we started the work session at 6 o'clock. We have a public hearing coming up in 2 minutes. I see our stenographer Jennifer is available, just waving. So if you'd like to comment on the library, Port Jeff Library proposals, this is a public hearing for the Port Jeff Library. You need to get off YouTube and get on Zoom. And when you get on Zoom, at the point where we ask for public comment, please raise your hand. You'll be admitted to the meeting. Jennifer will swear you in. You need to just state your name and address for the record. And then we'll take public comment in that form. I don't know if there's anything else we need to say at this point. Okay, I think we've got like a minute, so why don't we, Lisa, you can admit the applicant
Okay.
and the applicant's representatives.
All right.
And while she's doing that, we'll just say that we'll have them summarize the project, get in general terms, what's being done so that everybody's aware of it. we'll take questions from the board. And then we'll open it up for public comment again on Zoom. And you can raise your hand and Lisa will admit you one by one, get sworn in, state your name and address, and please give the comment. Please address the board for the comments. And then if we need to involve the applicant, we'll get them to answer the questions.
All right, so I think most of the library team should be joining us right now as panelists. Let's see if it's working. Do we have Christian Newbert, John Longo, Thomas Donnellan? Let me add a couple more here. Okay, I think that is the library's team.
Okay, same rules for the library. Jennifer, the stenographer, will swear you in unless you're an attorney. You don't need to get sworn in. It'd be nice if we have one person to lead the discussion or lead the presentation. What we're going to ask you to do basically is summarize the overall aspects of the presentation, what's being done, just the highlights. Then we're going to go to board questions. And then after that to public input. So who would like to lead off? And again, you need to state your name and address. If you're not a village resident, you can give your business address, that's fine.
Good evening, my name is John Longo. I am a senior associate at BBS Architects in Patchogue, New York. I will lead off. We do have two, as you know, we do have two applications on the agenda this evening. And I will defer the first after the introductions, and then I will engage on the second. This evening, we are here for conditional use for the library for two parcels. The first being 205 East Main Street, which at the moment is vacant. And the library is looking to relocate their teen and youth center to that location. And the second being 114 Thompson, which is adjacent to the east side of the library parking lot, and which we are looking to have, again, conditional use for library for the outdoor learning and fitness space. The first application seeks a new ADA entrance and ramp at the rear of the building to access the young adult center. And the other application is seeking to propose the outdoor fitness space for library patrons, which would be in concert and supplement the current library functions within the building. But as we are in the COVID era, excuse me, we are trying to get people outside for the multiple benefits of A, outdoor learning, and B, fitness outside, and decrease the current loading inside the building while not increasing foot traffic, but just give people an opportunity to get outside for these wonderful programs that the library offers. And with that, with
John, maybe it's best if you know who's going to speak collectively.
Yeah.
If it's, maybe Jennifer can swear everybody in together after you give your name and address.
If you want to do that as well. All right, so
multiple times.
Yeah, and thank you, Ray. Appreciate that. I'll introduce quickly, and then everybody can go through their roster. First up would be Thomas Donlan, the director of the library, as well as trustee Christian is with us someplace, Christian Newbert, and Joe Orofino, who's in business finance with the library. And from my office at BBS is Jacqueline Ruggiero, who is working on the 205 East Main project. So if you guys want to introduce yourselves, please do so.
Yeah, hi everybody. It's Tom Donlan, the library director here. Yeah, just Hello.
Yeah, we hear you.
Nice to meet everyone. Joe Orfino, financial officer of the library, Board of Trustees.
Okay.
Hey everyone, Christian Newbert, Vice President. I apologize, I don't have my camera on. I'm in the car right now. But again, Christian Newbert, Vice President of the Board of Trustees.
All right. Normally, we need you to raise your right hand. You can keep both hands on the wheel.
Hi everyone, I'm Jackie Ruggiero. I'm from BBS Architects. I'm an interior and architectural designer there.
Okay. Jennifer, you want to swear everybody in?
Sure. Can you all raise your right hand, please? Do you swear the testimony and or statement you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank
I
you.
do.
Okay. All right. Who's on next?
So Jackie, if you'd like to talk them through the 205 project, and then we can see if the board has questions with the application.
Sure thing.
I can go ahead and share my screen of the site plan that we have, if that's helpful.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, maybe the first thing to do, Jackie, if you can just describe the location and the streets, they're a little bit cut off here, and
Okay, sure.
something about the existing building. I'm sure you're going to go into that anyway, but that would be good.
All right, so the existing Bales House is located on 205 East Main Street. It's directly south of the existing Port Jeff Public Library. Currently, the library's teen center is located across the street in a rental space, and the library is looking to move their teen space over to the existing vacant residence. And we will be doing a light interior renovation as well as some mechanical, electrical, and plumbing upgrades on the inside. And as far as the outside, we're going to be impacting the building very minimally. We are looking to introduce a new back entrance, which would serve as the building's ADA entry. So we are looking to build a new on-grade path from the existing main entry of the library across the site to the north side of the Bales House. We will start a concrete ramp that ramps up to the back rear entry, where we will be constructing a new door. As you come in, the patrons are still intended to use the front entry as the main entry. So there won't be too much traffic along that new path that we are constructing. As far as parking, there will be no additional parking constructed. There's 2 existing spaces at the back of the site, which conform with the building's new usage. So patrons are expected to continue using the existing library parking and walk over to the teen center. And last but not least, we will be constructing a new concrete pad at the rear side of the building to house a new air condenser unit. So again, very minimal impact. There's no additions or any expansion on the existing building itself.
Okay. Any board questions?
I'm sure you've
Go ahead.
looked at, yeah, thanks. I'm sure you've looked at this already, but the slope of that walk, it will comply with ADA?
Yes, it'll definitely comply with ADA. The ramp itself is 30 feet long, which will allow us to get to an appropriate height at the back of the site. And the ramp also works with the existing grade. As you can see, the grade's increasing as you move to the back of the site. So it was the least invasive design that we can come up with.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
And I have a question about lighting. Is it going to be dark sky compliant, or where is the lighting going to be?
Right now, we were not looking at introducing any new lighting to the exterior. I believe maybe Tom can weigh in a little bit here on the site's existing lighting.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, we were planning on keeping the existing lighting. We could light up the path with the light, like walkway lights if we need to, or something like that. But we don't plan on putting any like huge spotlights or anything like that in there.
Thank you,
Okay,
Tom.
thank you.
Anybody else on the board? Okay. You want to go on to the other site now? That's probably the best, and then we'll take questions on that, and then we open it up for public comment on both.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense. Right. Appreciate that. Lisa, if I sent you some wonderful renderings that we prepared. If you could
Yes.
share those. Yep, that's perfect.
Good.
Okay. Again, thank you, everybody. Hope I'm coming in loud and clear from my kitchen. This is oriented with west to the top of your screen, which is the current library parking lot, and Thompson Street would be north to your right when looking at this. This is, again, the reason that we're here is we had a single family residence that the library had acquired and demolished and had restored the property. I'm sure anybody in the neighborhood knows what it looks like in its current state. It's a expensive lawn right now with a nice aluminum fence out in front along the sidewalk, and it's just we're maintaining it as it is at the moment with the thought that we had future plans in mind, and our presentation this evening is that plan. So what we're here for tonight is to present the outdoor education and fitness space that we have come up with for this, as I said earlier, to supplement and reduce the current library load. We have built into this design 5 specific use zones, and I say use zones because as you work your way from the sidewalk at Thompson and work your way in here, and you'll see that meandering, curving walkway. That walkway is specifically in that shape and pattern because it's fully ADA accessible and to provide uniform access, as we are trying to have not only young children in here who are able-bodied or may not be able-bodied, but also the elderly. So the form of the project was kind of a result of trying to achieve that long, low slope coming up that property. If you're familiar with it, there is almost 4 feet of grade from the sidewalk to the midpoint in the back. So our use zones would be an arts and crafts area as you first come in, a low impact area for yoga and or Pilates and things of that nature, or for Tai Chi. On the bottom there would be the reading nook and the Mother Goose area where we could have story time and things like that for the younger children. As we work our way up, there's going to be a meditation and mind and body zone. We're not 100% committed to the labyrinth pattern, but again, these are conceptual graphics for the master plan. But that upper area would be an area to read and just the view from that property when you look back towards the north and the northwest is amazing. You can almost see over the whole entire harbor. It's really quite impressive. And then finally, the upper and most area to the south there would be the nature explore area, where we can have the children come out and do different types of nature-bound things with play in terms of supporting the program at the library. The current library lighting in the parking lot would be utilized. There is no, I'm going to repeat, there's no lighting proposed for this project. We feel that the current illumination is sufficient, either from the street and or from the parking lot. The library currently has security cameras on those light poles, which will capture this, and they currently do. And those are actually tied into the village police department. So we have double duty there in terms of understanding who's there after dark. The use times for the project would mirror exactly the library, meaning if the library is closed on a holiday, this is closed. If it's open from 9 till 5, this would mirror those hours. It's exactly, it's just think of this as an outdoor piece of the library. It's only going to function when the library is functioning. And that's twofold. That's to have supervision and to make sure that, when we're not open, the proper people know that nobody should be in this particular space. On the east side, which we have a neighbor adjacent, we're proposing a large evergreen buffer planting, which will help to screen that use from them. And over time, that will grow up appropriately, and that would be vegetation, in concert with the other applicants that we're going to utilize as much native vegetation and low water utilization as we can, low maintenance plantings, and things that we know will perform. This site currently has an irrigation system. When it was redeveloped after the house was knocked down, irrigation was put in to maintain that wonderful lawn that has been out there, and that will be manipulated to provide drip irrigation, actually, which will consume less water to our plantings that we're proposing. And that is the synopsis of what we're proposing at 114.
Well, thanks. That's a very good summary and a very nice looking plan. I know the board has seen this already. Yeah, that's a nice view there. Anyone on the board have comments? Questions? Okay.
Thank you, Lisa. There are other snapshots as Lisa's scrolling through of these graphics that we had put together.
This is looking from Thompson, right?
Yep, this one's looking from the sidewalk along Thompson, looking due south. You can see the trees that we're proposing on the left side there. That would be the eastern side of the parcel. In the middle, because it's wide open, we would be proposing a lower type of sail shade structure, which would be able to be taken down, in the winter months, what have you. And as we're winding our way through this wonderful piece of property, you can see the different use zones kind of taking their form as each activity is occurring at the same time. This is an upper view, which we would be cleaning up the overgrown brush that currently is in the back there. The fencing that is along Thompson Street would be continued from north to south down along the property line, if you will, of the current library in this lot, which would mimic that aluminum decorative fencing that's there currently. And we'd be removing that split rail fence, which currently would allow kids to unfortunately be able to, crawl through and get down to the retaining wall that's there. So this would prevent that from occurring.
Okay, very good. Lisa, do you see anybody looking to comment on Zoom?
Well, I think now is the time to ask. If anyone is interested in, has a comment or a question, who's in attendance now on Zoom, please use the raise hand icon and I will promote you to a panelist so that you can speak to the board.
We'll give it a minute or two.
Fair enough.
Well, we do, I think, oh, sorry, Laura, but I do know we have two comments that were shared with the board, which Ray may want read into the record.
That's what I was gonna say. I wanted to make sure, because I feel like they addressed those comments, but just to make sure.
Yeah, it looks like they have, but I'll go through them one by one.
Okay, at this time, no one has raised a hand or requested to speak, so maybe.
Yeah, I'll go through the written comments. I do want to say that I think because the plan there was a lot of preparation went into this, that's why there are no comments, at least tonight or from board members, because it was a nice presentation and it's a very favorable project, I think, that we're looking forward to seeing. The first earlier comments came in from Lynn Hallerman on January 6th actually came to Cindy Suarez, who's our secretary for planning and zoning. And these comments all pertain to 114 Thompson, which is the rear yard. It's actually, as like Laura said, we've probably addressed everything already, but let's go through them. First comment is the lighting of the space appropriate for a neighbor's street, like no nighttime bright lights? And we've already, heard that the lighting is not being added to by this project. The library is advertising this as a green space. Will most of the space be kept green and not turned into a concrete jungle? I think that's, that's easily answered by looking at the exhibits we saw. That is, it is mostly green with some nice walkways in the interior. How will the increases in foot traffic and noise be addressed? Safety issues. Lynn comments that she'd like to see speed bumps, given that the street has a public library on it, lots of kids and elders. Speed bumps put in place on Lower Thompson. It is already a raceway, lots of near misses. We do have some other roadways in the village that have been identified to the Board of Trustees as needing some response in terms of speeding. Perhaps the Board of Trustees can add this to the agenda on that or list of roadways where things should be addressed. You do have, you're driving uphill and you have a stop sign not far north of the library, but I can see that, you know, people make the turn off of East Main and they do sometimes increase their speed, but I don't know that speed bumps are the solution. But that's something that I think that we can forward to the board to take a look at. There's a question, was an equitable process deployed when hiring a contractor to do the work? I don't know if you have a contractor in place, but I assume that it's, you know, usual library soliciting bids from contractors, usual process where it's open to multiple contractors. Is that the case?
Yeah, thank you for the question. We have not reached out to any contractors to date, as we are weighing our way through planning and then essentially building. We will let the project, which means bid it eventually, and we will solicit bids from multiple parties to ensure that we are, you know, complying with whatever procurement regulations that the public library has.
Okay. There was a comment about the community being allowed to review the plans before this meeting, but, you know, that's the viewing the plans was actually at this meeting. So there was no advance. We didn't post them anywhere, I don't believe, right?
They weren't
No,
posted.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry?
Lisa. No,
Okay.
they weren't posted anywhere.
Yeah.
But once plans are submitted to the village for review, they immediately become foilable. And I'll say this as a PSA to anyone else who's listening. If you ever have interest in any projects that may or may not be coming, well, may be coming before the planning board or the zoning board, simply filing a FOIL request will get you full access to those plans. The village does not routinely post plans anywhere, but anyone who has interest is certainly more than welcome to reach out, gain access, and see what people are thinking about doing.
Okay. So.
And Ray, I do have one hand raised in the waiting room, if it concludes
Okay.
that comment.
Let me, I'll just finish. Lynn had one more comment, and Bob Huttemeyer had some comments this morning, 2 comments, which have already been addressed. So I'll just cover those quickly. Actually, Lynn's last comment was about security issues. I think you covered that with the cameras, which is a good way to do it. Bob Huttemeyer's comments this morning asked what type of changes are being planned, if any, to the existing landscaping and fencing on the 114 Thompson Street property. You've covered that. And will all of the outdoor lighting be downlighting to avoid shining into neighbors' homes and minimize light pollution? And there is no additional lighting being added, so that's also covered. If we can have that person be admitted and ask the question.
Sure. I'm promoting Lori Rapetti to panelist. Okay, Lori, you are now part of this meeting. If you want to unmute and turn your camera on.
Okay, hi, I'm Lori Rapetti. I live at 111 East Main Street.
Are you an attorney, ma'am?
I am not.
Can you raise your right hand so I can swear you in, please? Do you swear testimony and/or statements you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I think the development of these two properties is an example of extremely successful community involvement, and I thank you for that. I'd like to follow up on one of the comments that was made, that was read out to the group, and that is about introducing speed bumps or some way to control the traffic. As a resident of East Main Street, I can tell you that the increase of speeding on East Main Street is really worrisome. And if that part, well, in particular, the piece of East Main Street between Thompson and East Broadway could also be taken into consideration when you're looking at traffic speed, I would appreciate that. I think that's really important.
Okay. And Lisa, this is yours, right? Can we forward these comments on speeding to the Board of Trustees?
Yes, I can definitely forward those comments to the Board of Trustees and let them know. I do know that, you know, this has been throughout the village, not just on these streets, is something that they've been dealing with a lot lately, trying to find different solutions. And as you know well, Ray, depending on the exact environment, you know, there are a variety of things that can help reduce speeding, speed bumps or other possible solutions.
Yeah, I just like to say that speed bumps, like you would see in a parking lot, they're not legal on a public roadway. There's actually other options like speed humps, which are gradual raising of the pavement through an area that make you slow down. There's speed signs associated with that, and there are the speed. I guess they call them speed tables. You'll see up by the elementary school. That's another way of slowing traffic down as well. But the board does have a list of probably half a dozen roadways, at least that I know of, that they're considering some type of solutions for those.
All right, thank you, Lori. I will move her back to the attendee role.
Okay, and no other hands raised, I don't think. No, I don't see any. Okay, thank you all. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, all the representatives of the applicant and also our stenographer tonight, Jennifer. Thank you.
Do we have to vote on that, or just
since we're closed the public hearing, I think we should consider the two resolutions that have been drawn up for vote.
Thank you all from all of us for the support. We appreciate it.
Right.
It's a great project. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
It's
Okay.
great.
Can I ask one quick question? Sorry. And that is there any new landscaping proposed for the property to the south?
Not at this time.
Okay.
That would be across the street, right, Jen? No.
No,
On the
in
south
the
side?
in the new teen center.
At 205 Main.
Oh, I'm
East
sorry.
Main.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, any disturbances will be restored once the walkways are put in, but I don't believe there's any mature vegetation that'll be impacted by that.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, have a great night, everybody.
You could stay on and listen because we're going to discuss, but
yeah, I will now move the library team to attendees.
yeah, you're just
Yes, everyone.
you'll be mere attendees now, not
Demoted.
not panelists.
I'll
good
listen
night,
while I
everyone.
feed the kids. All right, have a great night.
Bye.
Okay. You too. All right, we have two resolutions before us. One for 114 Thompson Street. I don't know if everyone has a chance to review them. They were sent to us ahead of time. So any comments? No. Okay. I did have, I saw on, we saw on the second page, I think of both, conditional use of artisan manufacturing.
That's just good. I must have left that in. I apologize. I
That was from a
do-
prior
I
application.
do work from drafts often, so.
Yes, well, that's a good idea. And I think it was in both. It was in,
Okay, yeah, that,
so that would be an amendment.
okay, so that's an easy change. As far as conditions, they were standard conditions, I believe that I had on, they should be quite familiar. Let me just open my files here.
We go right to the resolutions, or we have a secret? No, we don't need a secret.
We
right?
do for the 304 for the Main Street. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit confused. From the East Main building, it is a straightforward type 2 action because it's a renovation of an existing building that's under a certain square footage. So that is a type 2 action, and there is no need to do any further secret analysis on it. That should be in the resolution. Let me just make sure it's there. And I will also highlight the.
It is in the middle of page 2.
Where is it? I have condition. Yeah, I'm just looking. I don't. Yeah. Oh, it's the be it here be resolved line. Oh, that needs editing. So for this one, if there's no further conditions, site plans are good for 24 months. This requires building permits, standard garbage and refuse, sewer hookup, all the rest. Signs are required. Site permits are required for signs. The signature stamp, which I have a 7 next to, which shouldn't be there. So that's a small edit. And the 4 copies for signature. I couldn't think of anything else that would apply to this particular property, but if there's any further comments or amendments.
Anybody? I didn't see any.
Don't we have something in there usually about, wait, which one are we on?
This
We're
is
on 205 East Main,
Oh, East Main. Okay.
the
never
existing
mind.
building.
I was thinking of the Thompson one, if the plants die.
Yes, that is the.
Is that in there?
That is not, and that should be. You are correct.
Okay.
So there is a 3-year now in this space, given what they're intending to use it for. I assure you they will replant because it would be a really sad outdoor space if it was all the plants.
I'm just
cut down.
thinking of the screening because a lot of evergreens died this year.
Yeah, you're right.
Weird.
Well, we've had 2 very bad drought years, I think, in a row, and I think that's taken a lot of heavy toll. So I think that is a good addition to the 114 resolution.
So funny, Ray. I read right over that manufacturing. Like just, the whereas it shall
Also-
be. And I'm like, okay. And I'm looking at him like, oh, okay.
Lisa,
Totally
also
missed it.
just
Yeah, go ahead.
change the public hearing date to today's date.
Update the public hearing. Good.
So it was on January 31st.
Is that on both or just?
I haven't.
It was on February 3rd.
No, yeah,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
It's where they were repeated.
Okay. Yep.
That must have been the date I wrote the resolution. And the computer auto-filled the date. Okay, so we should take them each resolution one at a time if you want to start with 205 East Main.
Yeah, same comment on 205 about the date. So you got that. Okay, so 205 has the amendment to renumber the conditions at the end, take out number 7, right? Because it's part of 6, and the last one becomes 7, changing use as we discussed, and the date of the public hearing, which was today's date. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution as amended?
Motion.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion's approved. And now the motion on 114 Thompson. First, we need a motion on.
Before we do that, on 114 Thompson, it actually is an unlisted action because there was no type 2 for this type of
Oops.
Hello, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay.
I think Lisa just
Yeah,
froze.
Lisa
there.
froze.
Oh, hold on a second.
Oh, she's
Okay.
back.
We can see
She's
you now.
unfrozen.
Can you hear us, Lisa?
It was nice. She froze in a good spot.
Yeah, you did a good job freezing.
Yeah.
Freeze frames can be really sketchy sometimes.
She logging in with her voice again? Oh.
Can you hear us, Lisa? Nod.
Guess
No.
not.
That was weird.
Lisa lost power. Her computer is out.
Oh, okay. We'll give her a minute to.
Okay,
She can't get. You okay, Lisa?
let's see if this, you can hear me now?
Yes.
We sure can.
Okay, that was.
We were just commenting that
so
you chose a perfect moment to freeze because it was actually quite nice looking. It wasn't like one of those scary like mid sneeze freezes. So that turned
Oh,
out
I'm so
really
glad
well.
to know that. That was really strange. And it's
Yeah.
still, my computer's still loading back up and seems a little tentative here, but yeah, everything went
jump on
black.
my-
I'm surprised this did not drop out.
Lisa, you want to change spots?
No, for now I'm good. I'm hosting through this computer, so I should stay here.
Okay, you want to, you were just talking about it's an unlisted action, right?
Yes. So 114 Thompson, because of this external outside renovation work, it does not fit into the renovations of an existing building or any other listed action, and therefore it's non-listed. I've completed they completed the short form EAF, and I completed then the part 2, and didn't identify any moderate to severe environmental impacts. So there's no further review required beyond that. This is the type of thing that it's an unusual project, so it's not it doesn't really fit in any listed category. But that said, you still do need to classify the action and make a determination.
Okay.
Declare lead agency too.
And declare lead agency.
Yeah.
So we should do
Classify,
that- we should do
declare,
that first.
decide.
Okay, can I get a motion to declare the planning board lead agency?
I'll make the motion.
Oh, sorry.
I think a tie goes to Barbara. Sorry, Gil.
It's okay.
You can second if you like.
I'll second. Thank you.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then we want to get a motion to classify this as a type 2 action in accordance with SECR.
Unlisted.
Unlisted.
Unlisted. Thank you. Unlisted action in accordance with SECR.
So motion.
Okay. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
You
Gil
got
got
it in
that
that time, Gil.
That time I
Okay.
won.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion's approved. And then get a motion to approve the resolution as amended, which
No,
consists
you also
of.
have to declare significance.
Oh,
Say that
no
again?
significant impact?
Yeah.
Oh, can I get a motion to
I will so motion.
declare no significant impact? Okay, Laura, motion, second. Barbara, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 3 motions. And now we need a 4th to approve the resolution as amended, which consists of changing the hearing date, changing the secret paragraph to comply with what we just did in terms of the 3 motions, the conditional use description, get that modified, and the standard landscape condition of approval at the end. So those will be the amendments. Can I get a motion to approve as amended?
I'll make the motion to approve as amended.
Okay, second.
I was waiting for Gil. I'll do it.
Okay, Laura, this time. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
We need those little buttons like on Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the agenda, which is now buried under other paper. So we now would like to talk about 304 Main Street. Is that correct? Billy's 1890 site.
Yes, let's see if
Okay.
Amy is ready to join the discussion.
Did they give any renderings aside or just the plants?
We just got the plans. We did not get renderings. Sorry, just give me a second here. Computer is still not happy with me. Okay, promoting Amy DeVito to panelist.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy.
I was here before, but you guys couldn't see or hear me because I'm on my computer remotely and Zoom was trying to use my office computer volume and speakers. It took me like 15 minutes to figure that one out.
Okay, well, we gave you enough time, so.
Well, I'm glad we had the test run then, but that's happened to me before as well. The very first time I had to host one of these meetings and I was at home and I tried to do it remotely and I realized my error. Had to start it over.
I was puzzled. I was like, why isn't this working? And then all of a sudden it dawned on me. So there you have it. Lisa, Michael Morbillo and Billy Phillips should also be in the audience. And if you could bring them both on as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Michael just chatted.
All right, let's see. I will bring them in.
Efficient.
Okay. So Michael Morbillo and Billy Phillips are both promoted to panelists now.
Perfect.
Hi, Michael. Hi, Billy. Okay, who would like to begin?
I guess I'll start, and then if we have more technical questions, Michael can chime in, and then also Billy probably has some information that might be pertinent as well. So good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. So as you know, as a development with COVID, it's been a desire for many restaurants to have outdoor seating for purposes of obviously people keeping people comfortable and safe while still dining out, drinking, etc. So last year, Billy's did partake in a temporary seasonal outdoor seating permit, which I helped them obtain. It was a great success. I think you probably saw that all over the village. So this year, it dawned on Billy and his team that it might make sense for them to attempt for a more permanent outdoor seating area and just an outdoor area in general. Since it was such a great success and since it doesn't appear that the world will be changing back to pre-COVID anytime soon. So originally we were going to propose a patio with some seating or use the existing patio and have some seating out there with a canopy over it. And then it became more apparent that it might be nicer to actually have an outdoor deck back there. Kind of elevated with level to the exterior door Just something a little bit more aesthetically nice with a roof over it, for purposes of mostly just seasonal seating and outdoor dining. But obviously it would be something nice to have that could be used all year round when weather permits. So the site plan that you have before you does propose this, a wood deck with outdoor seating with a roof over, which would, we are proposing it to be a permanent structure. There would also be a small service bar, not an actual bar where you would sit and have a drink, but a service bar for wait staff. And as part of this plan, it would trigger us to what's the word I'm looking for? Redesign the fire escape exit out of the back of Billy's and what the apartments flow down to. So I am going to let the board ask questions. That way we could kind of fine tune what you guys want to talk about. And then again, Michael and Billy are both here to answer further questions for you guys to ask away.
All right. Thank you, Amy. Lisa, would you like to summarize comments that you've had so far?
Yeah, so I didn't really get to do this far in advance, so otherwise I would have shared with Amy in advance, but it's been a fairly tight turnaround here given the amount going on. So a couple of things. This is a revised plan from something that had been previously submitted a couple months ago. In this plan, a couple of the changes include, they've now said that they will put a removable canvas top over this area, which maybe we can clarify permanent versus not permanent. The outdoor dining code doesn't allow outdoor dining in areas with any kind of permanent roofing structure. It's very specifically meant to be seasonal outdoor dining, and you know, whether or not it's a good idea to have year-round. I certainly have enjoyed year-round outdoor dining myself, as rules have been relaxed recently. But what the code permits when there aren't these exceptions is temporary outdoor dining for seasonal purposes if you get a special use permit from the Board of Trustees. So permit structures for roofs are not permitted. We also don't permit any kind of food preparation outside or alcohol service outside unless it's from a waitress to a table. So my concern here with this Waitress Station, what's labeled a Waitress Station, it's a 17 or 18 foot long linear feet effectively bar, and it's hard for me to imagine. Waitress stations on average are somewhere between 2 feet to 6 feet, so this is a very, very large one. So it looks like it's either designed for service of alcohol or service of food, and that is in direct contradiction to what the code permits. A couple other things identified that are potential concerns. One is I don't know offhand, and maybe Mark Murbilla can speak more directly to this as he is the architect. It's my understanding that this might require ADA access. The building currently doesn't have it, but this would be a brand new structure, and I would think that might be required. The setback here doesn't meet the requirements. I think it's a little bit because this is a bit of a confusing because this is from a previous site plan, but this land was deeded to the village, to my knowledge, so the property line now ends here, and the code does require a 12-foot setback from the nearest curb.
Lisa?
Yeah.
I just want to interrupt. It was my mistake. We are not doing a permanent roof over, nor are we proposing it. It is going to be exactly what we discussed previously, a temporary awning over or canopy.
Okay. Yeah. So the code on seasonal dining is pretty specific. Like all furnishings have to be temporary and removed when the season closes. Applicant must demonstrate sufficient parking for those seasonal seats. But I'm just highlighting the potential things the board might want to think about. Let me just see quickly here if there was one other. Oh, and of course, the major issue that I see that I don't know what the solution is for this is that this deck is located where the previous site plan had the dumpster with dumpster enclosure and screening. And there's no proposal as to where to put the dumpster. This is a restaurant active use with multiple apartments above it. It requires a dumpster and dumpster service regularly. And there are no public dumpsters at this point. So there isn't a public option to be utilized. So that has to be resolved because this can't be a restaurant with, this site plan doesn't work without a dumpster for the facility.
Okay, Lisa, you had something on number of seats outdoors too, I believe.
Well, I did point out that the number of tables proposed outside does double the table capacity of the restaurant. So if you look at their floor plan and tables in here, they would have the same number of seats outside effectively as they do inside. So it's a large expansion of the restaurant use, which is just highlighted for the board's consideration because it is, it's significant.
Okay. And does the board have in the code, I'm sorry, in the village code, are there dates for the seasonal operation?
Yes, there are dates set in the code for seasonal outdoor dining. I think it ends November 15th and it has a shoulder season, if I recall. So there is an active season which ends earlier where you're allowed later dining, and then once during the summer hours, and then in the once schools are back in session and presume people need quieter evenings, it's a shorter. I'm just trying to see if I can find it quickly, this specific.
Yeah, that's okay. But it's in the code, and when you say shorter, it ends earlier. Is that?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay.
So the seasonal outdoor dining permits are issued between March 15th and November 15th for any calendar year. And I don't see, I thought there was a shoulder season, but I don't see that in here in my quick read, but it does say that there's no service outdoors permitted between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m.
All right. Board questions for Amy or any of the team for the applicant? Okay. Now, Lisa, you're going to share this memo. Well, I saw it. I saw we just got it today, so you just prepared it. You're going to share it with.
Yeah, I was thinking that I was going to wait to see what the board's feedback was on the plan, and then I could consolidate all the feedback to share with the applicant in written form.
I actually did have a question. The plan that we already looked at with the patio at grade level, how many seats was that? Because we approved that, no? Or did we? What happened with that one?
It was.
Did we ever get passed?
No, it was submitted. We asked the same questions about the dumpster. We wanted renderings. And then they quickly decided that they thought maybe they wanted to go a different direction.
Okay.
And then we didn't receive anything for a number of months. And the last submission, I'd had some comments. I'd requested to see the floor plan so we could see where that egress stair was being relocated and those things. And so these are the updated submissions now that we're looking at.
I have a question about outdoor seating versus indoor seating. And it was my understanding that when you have outdoor dining, you are actually shifting the number of seats in the restaurant to the outdoors, not adding a number of seats to the restaurant, because that affects your parking and everything else. So this essentially, I think Lisa had said, doubles the amount of seating, unless things have changed because of COVID. But I know that people don't want to be in a tight spot inside a building, and that's why they're gravitating outside. But I don't know if you could actually double the amount of seating to this restaurant, by doing the outdoor dining.
Barbara, just to clarify, even though we are proposing a permanent structure to put the seats on, in this case, a deck, this still would be seasonal outdoor seating. So it would in essence be the same operation as when we were in previous, in the last 2 seasons have elected to do the temporary seasonal outdoor license. So this in essence would be the same. I do not have the temporary seasonal application at home with me right now, so I couldn't tell you what the comparison was from that seat to this. Maybe Michael Morbillo or Billy can chime in on that. I just don't have the document to reference. But yes, so this would in essence be the same operation as what we were doing with the temporary seating. And Lisa, maybe you could clarify. I don't know if there's anything in the village code that prohibits a certain amount of seats for outdoor seasonal seating. I'm not aware of it if there is a limit to that. I mean, I'm sure it's not limitless, but
it's limited based on 2 things, I would say, which is that the square footage that's required per table and the parking, in that it does specify that one of the considerations is there sufficient parking for the proposed outdoor seating, which is the reason that most of the time we're talking about, given the limited space most people have for outdoor dining, you're talking about adding a couple of tables outside. And I think it's easy to say in the summer that it's sufficient parking for a seasonal situation. But it is, to me, it raises a bit of a flag when it's doubling the size of a restaurant for over half the year. That question does become prominent of, is there sufficient parking?
So in this, I'm not understanding the disconnect between the temporary seasonal license and then requesting to do this, every year seasonally on a deck. So because this has not come up thus far with the temporary outdoor seasonal licenses or permits.
Well, I don't know. The last 2 years have been fairly exceptional. In that pretty much all rules related to seasonal outdoor dining were suspended.
Okay.
So I think the planning board looking forward is assuming that the standard rules are going to be in place and are trying to take that into consideration and are really looking, like, obviously, the Board of Trustees, they really granted emergency motions to make sure that to help aid as best possible all of our businesses in the hopes that they could survive, this crazy time. But when we look at like permanent changes, if the board's going to make these changes permanent and how they look at outdoor dining and calculate it and figure it, that's a question about changing the code. I think the planning board has to look at this, assuming that all these rules are staying in place as far as outdoor service and no bars and parking being required. And not that it's permanent parking is necessarily necessary, but somehow it's got to be shown that this isn't going to create a burden on the village, that there is sufficient parking, whether that means there's no seats inside because they're being moved outside. And that has been looked at before in outdoor dining situations where the case was made, well, we're just moving these seats we have inside, we're pushing them outside for the ambiance, and therefore we're not burdening the parking.
Okay, and that I don't know that we're necessarily opposed to doing that. It would just be a discussion that Billy Phillips, Michael Morbillo, and I would have, because I would tend to agree that in the summer months and the warmer months, most people would probably elect to sit outside as opposed to sitting inside, in which case the indoor dining room would be less populated than the outdoor dining area. So that is something that we could definitely discuss. And I think this is probably just for the board's reference, and I wasn't involved in this application, but I think this plan is probably pretty consistent with what Dominic Perillo did next door, which I believe comes off of the back of the pie. I haven't been there yet. And again, I wasn't involved in that application. But and Lisa, maybe you can elaborate more, but I just for the board's reference, I believe that what we are intending to do here is consistent with that structure and that layout, just so the board has an idea of precedence isn't really the word, but conformity in the neighborhood.
It's my understanding that that was done in violation of the code.
So there's no
that
approval
there
for
is
that
no
at all?
planning board, there is no planning board approval for that at all.
And no building permit.
That I don't know. I do
Okay.
not handle building, but
Gotcha.
Also, Amy, I just wanted to, there is a section, I don't remember what the dimensions of the deck that were shown, but the code for in 250 58C3, there's a 15 square foot allocated of outdoor dining space per seat. So that sort of establishes how many.
So I'm sorry, say that one more time.
It's 15 square feet of outdoor dining space per seat.
So Jen, do you mean, so then if there's 4 seats, it has to be.
I just can't remember what the area of the
No, but I'm
deck
just, so that I understand is it, so if you have 4 seats, you need 30 square feet.
Yes. 4 seats would be 60.
60.
Oh, 60. Okay, don't.
Right. 60.
Thank you.
And I do think that this deck is large enough that it probably accommodates that.
Yeah, just,
but
I think,
but that's
Amy
why I
had
said
Amy had a question about
right.
just how
limits.
those things were set up. Yeah.
Lisa, our action here is a recommendation to the Board of Trustees for a seasonal permit. Is that correct?
No, this is a site plan amendment for the construction of this deck. This deck
Okay.
doesn't exist.
Oh, it's a deck. That's right, because it's a permanent. That
And so
part's
it's a permanent
Yeah.
change
Gotcha.
of the deck and the awning and the relocation of the staircase.
Okay.
So the seasonal dining, presumably a permit would wait till after that. But Amy, if I can ask, because we're getting into the specifics, like fussing over the number of seats, but to me the first block I hit when I look at this is where's the garbage, where's the dumpster. So
Yeah.
can we talk about that? Because I feel like
Yes.
none of the rest of this matters. Because if you can't put your dumpster anywhere, you can't do anything else.
Yes, I just also want to just make one statement before we go into that. This deck is elevated just above the patio that exists where the outdoor seasonal seating was occurring for the last 2 seasons. So this is in essence just taking what has already functioned as their outdoor area and raising it a little bit and putting it on a deck. So just to give the board perspective on what we're trying to do, it's not inconsistent with what we've been doing. It's just on top of a deck. So it's just a different structure. So I am going to let Billy Phillips explain about what he has been discussing and doing as far as his refuse situation. So Billy, if you want to chime in,
Sure.
I think you can explain a little bit more about that.
Sure, thanks, Amy.
No problem.
So the issue with the garbage started 2 years ago with COVID, and we wanted to do outdoor dining on the patio behind Billy's. And we had a dumpster there. At that time, I don't want to say I was advised, but I was told by Margot to pull out the dumpster because the village was coming up with their own business district, garbage district, and that would fall into place. It wouldn't be an issue. Since then, I guess not much has moved forward with that. So we were left without a dumpster. We spoke with Dominic next door for the last year and a half. We have used his dumpster, which he would continue to do that. I have also spoken with our other restaurant neighbor at Oldfields, who said that he would be happy for us to share a dumpster together at his present location, which for us would be superior than going over to where Dominic's is, because honestly, that's a bit of a mess over there. And there's just too many people, and it's hard to maintain when you have 5 or 6 different operators using the same dumpster. So there is a provision for us to be able to find a place to put our garbage. And that's that on that matter. And let me just add, I've been down the road many times with the planning board. Not trying to do anything, stretch the rules, anything like that. I want to do whatever the village allows. I'm fine with that. I would just like to be treated like every other building owner in Port Jefferson. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So I think that, thank you, Billy. So, Lisa, I think that what we need to do, Billy and I, is maybe revisit this with Margot and the trustees. If a dumpster district is really not on the immediate horizon, then perhaps we can explore other options such as Billy and Dave over at Oldfields having an agreement as far as their dumpster to be shared. I think that it's in the best interest of not only the restaurant owners, but the village, that dumpsters are shared and there isn't a dumpster necessarily on each property, especially behind that whole strip, because it could get very messy.
I do agree with you. I mean, I don't, it's not, I'm not opposed to the idea of a dumpster district in the village. It's just, it's a complicated thing to establish and set up. And it becomes it's a big job for the village to take on. And there has to be somebody to actively pursue it. It requires a lot of easement access and the rest. So it's always been, you know, since I've been on the I've been helping staffing the planning board. This issue has come up where this idea, and it's been 4 years, and we're going to get a dumpster district, but I haven't seen any movement forward on that because it is so complicated to achieve. The problem with the deck, as opposed to looking at, you know, a removable awning structure over a back patio, is that once the deck is there, you have nowhere you can put a dumpster. So if Dominic or the neighbor at Oldfields doesn't want him to use that dumpster anymore, you can't have nothing can occupy the building. So from a planning perspective, it's a bad choice to allow something that has backed us into a corner where there's no solution. So I don't know, as you consider this, if yeah, Laura, go ahead.
Couldn't they put the dumpster underneath?
Michael, can you just clarify the clearance? I was actually just trying to come up with.
I mean, they'd probably have to roll it out to empty
Yeah.
it, but a lot of places do that.
Yeah, but you know, I'm thinking the smell, because if you're sitting on a deck on top of a dumpster, you got a lot of awful smells coming up.
Yeah, but that's the same premise as the dumpster being on the patio next to the seats. I mean, which is what would be required. Well, that's our whole point, Barbara, is that we don't want there to be, you know, an over congestion of garbage in that back area, because all of the restaurants are doing their outdoor dining right along that strip. So it actually doesn't make sense to have, like Lisa was saying, and I know, I'm sure the board can see this, you know, in our view as well. If everybody has a dumpster right next to their outdoor seating is just going to fail. And then like, we're going to see a whole other thing happen with these restaurants and bars. So obviously that is not the common goal for anybody here for a multitude of reasons. So putting it under the deck, yeah, maybe that is a possibility. Not ideal. I don't know that cutting back the deck a little bit would make sense for that either. In my opinion, the best method would be for a shared dumpster that, like we're saying with Oldfields, that is not necessarily near either of the immediate outdoor eating areas. And I think that's really what Billy and I need to explore and talk about a little further, you know, after this meeting to maybe come up with a more solid plan for that. Because it's a tough situation back there. It really is. There's a code, there's a, you know.
Yeah, would a written agreement with Oldfield satisfy the village's need to have a solution that wouldn't just disappear?
Lisa, I remember there being discussion about this when we were doing and Jennifer, when we were doing the original improvement for Billy's a couple of years ago. And I would have to reread the code.
Well, what happened, if I recall correctly from that, the original there was an original plan for a permanent dumpster with dumpster pad and permanent enclosure, and you were granted, Billy's was given a little bit of a leeway. They were kind of granted a reprieve from that part of the site plan for about, I forget whether it was 6 months or a year,
Yeah.
in order for the village to establish a garbage district. And the presumption was if that was not happening, then the full site plan as happened was supposed to, as approved, was supposed to be installed in that, after that time frame had expired, and it wasn't. I mean, but shortly thereafter we went into the COVID times and all sorts of rules were suspended. As far as an agreement, the problem with a standard like lease, obviously that would be the preferable thing for from the owner's perspective, but from the planning board's perspective, once you install a permanent structure and you no longer have space to feasibly put a dumpster, if that person doesn't want to continue the lease, if the ownership changes, if Billy sells the restaurant and there's a new owner in and the neighbor doesn't want to cooperate with that owner, now we've backed ourselves into a position that we don't have a solution to. Which is the problem with just leasing space, and it's a reason why the planning board requests easements when these are permanent solutions, because otherwise it doesn't function.
And such an easement does exist with the Harbor Square Mall, the restaurant there. They have a filed easement agreement with an adjoining property owner for dumpster
The other
access.
thing is, thank you so much for that, Jennifer. The other thing is, while we're calling this deck a permanent structure, yes, of course it is, but it could also be modified and or removed. So I think the point I'm trying to make is, if as per this site plan that we're proposing, we go into an agreement with Oldfields for their dumpster, and Billy's decides he's gonna, sell the restaurant, or in years to come close the restaurant, perhaps we could sunset the dumpster situation, which basically would mean that upon Billy's sale, or upon the restaurant closing its doors one day in the future, or whatever the case is, that clause goes away. Meaning that for the site plan, for the life of this site plan, this particular plan, under what we're proposing, it would be a sunset clause. So it doesn't necessarily have to be permanent. In other words, if there is a new owner at one point that for some reason doesn't want to work together with Dave from Oldfields, they would have to put a dumpster on the property. I mean, there's ways to work around that.
One of the challenges is just shifting the burden to enforcement, as opposed to it being the property owner's responsibility to deal with their trash. And if they, if an easement's in violation, well, there's a lot they can sue to make it to enforce the easement. That's the issue that we hit, and that's why in these temporary situations, like you're saying right now, it's been fine for the last 2 years, but it's been temporary and it's worked out well. We just don't know that that's going to work well forever without having.
Excuse me, Lisa, could I just add, there are so many properties in Port Jefferson, we're an old village, that don't have any land to place a dumpster. And many of those are sharing a dumpster. What do you do? I mean, you're bringing up this argument. I understand your position, but there has to be some flexibility.
And I'm not saying that that's why we're asking for flexibility from I think, you as well, in terms of how the design of your project to accommodate your needs, whether that's seeking easements or changing the design. But I have not worked on every single project in the village. I can tell you that there are certain areas of the village that do have public dumpsters. I can tell you that I get calls sometimes from business owners who are interested in renting properties and ask me where they're supposed to throw their garbage out, and it should think it's the village's responsibility to find where that business disposes its garbage. So, these are issues we deal with constantly, and especially we get complaints in the summer about the smell of the garbage. As you mentioned, the shared dumpster that you've been using sometimes gets really messy and is problematic when too many people use the same dumpster, it can't meet the capacity. So we're looking down the road, not just in this particular moment, at whether it'll work for this summer or not. It's an issue of, can we come up with a permanent way to make this functional?
I mean, are you guys opposed to the easement idea?
No, no.
Oh,
not at
okay.
all. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like I mean, that's just putting it into, getting lawyers involved in signatures, right? I mean, it's just kind of formalizing the agreement.
Yeah,
that
I
it's kind of
don't think we're opposed at all.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a great solution.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Lisa,
absolutely.
No, I think it is. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying that something along those lines will be required. That without knowing where the dumpster's going, we don't know.
Yes. Because again, we really appreciate the fact that you're coming to us and you are crossing your I's and, crossing your T's and dotting your I's. I mean, it's greatly appreciated. I mean, this is definitely, and we, it's noted that you are here and you're doing things the right way and appreciated very much. And we're not trying to be obstruction people. We're not trying to make things harder. Just trying to find a solution that fits the site.
Understood. And thank you. We appreciate that. And I think that I think that what I want to ask at this point is, so I've written down some notes about the comments that we discussed today. Obviously, the dumpster is the biggest issue. If we could resolve that issue, or at least have a plan to resolve it while we're working through, this part of the project, what is our next step, Lisa? Do we just resubmit the plan and/or, a letter stating that we are going to elect to do the easement agreement, and then this plan can then go for public hearing? Or the goal here, everybody, is for us to get this done before the season starts, or at least, within the realm of reality of, when the season starts.
You don't necessarily need a public hearing. So that's one thing to take consideration of. There are going to be other things that that come out of this, that the answers that are requested. A few things that I don't have the answer to offhand would be things like ADA access, the planning board members have already asked for renderings, and we don't have renderings. I don't want to jump the gun and have you do more work if something has to change, because again, this dumpster to me is the first place I stop before we can get on to the other issues. But it is it's about meeting the requirements of the code and the planning board.
Okay. So say we get a plan back to you guys, just for argument's sake, within the next 2 weeks, code compliant, we have our dumpster situation in order, we've enacted a plan. What happened? And again, I don't mean to be pushy on this. It's just, I know how quickly the next couple of months go, and all of a sudden it's Memorial Day weekend. So we're just trying to get a course of action here to satisfy you guys so that we can move to the next step.
I had a quick question. Is the deck like a deck you would see on your backyard, so it's the rainwater can go through the slats? Okay.
Yep.
But would they need any special drainage for that, or no? Because yeah, I didn't think
it would
so.
Drain right into the way it was draining before, into the patio.
And
there
then,
would be no particular, route of runoff from it or anything like that.
And then is it close to will they need to show bollards or anything protecting the support columns, piers, whatever you want to call them? Those are things that I remember in the past that we've asked for. I'm just trying to think of all the things that you might need to show.
These are good points, Laura. And I think that if you want to, I'm taking notes here, and I will share them with the board before I share them with the applicant, to try to consolidate as many comments as possible. Again, changing nature of design might mean the comments shift and change and the issues shift. But I think that is a valid point to making sure, depending on what we don't really know how this is being built yet. So we don't know what.
I'm just thinking about that. Remember the deck that was what's now going to be the ferry offices?
Right, over the old water authority.
Yeah. I remember, they had to have bollards or just
Yeah,
to
you
try.
want to protect the columns. I mean, God
Yeah.
forbid.
From vehicles, yeah.
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 Wouldn't be the first column to get hit.
So Lisa, do you want to modify what you prepared for the board to include those, some of the items we talked about tonight, or you want to get that memo out first and more comments to follow? I don't know what's the best.
I think the best thing is actually to incorporate the comments from the board tonight, the additional discussion. I'll circulate it to you, and the comments can come from you to the applicant then in terms of what you think needs to be communicated and what needs to be resolved.
Can I? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, go.
I just want to revisit a point that I guess Barbara mentioned, and I'm curious, is there a possibility the agreements aren't reached that the restaurant could put a dumpster of some size underneath the deck, have to be rolled out? Obviously, there's a smell issue, but that's an incentive to the restaurant to make sure that that area stays clean. Whether it's 5 feet away or underneath, it's going to stink. It's going to stink. So you're going to want to take care of it. But under code, under building code, is that something that's allowed if it was proposed?
That could be accommodated. That could be accommodated in the design, where the deck would be about 6.5, 7 feet up in the air. So it could be accommodated if we ran into an issue with the easements.
Is there any input from the fire marshal needed for that in case there's a fire in the dumpster or something, and roll the thing out and put the fire out? I mean, how does that work?
I mean, I would think if there's a fire in the dumpster, that deck is.
That's an issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think whatever it would be, it would have to be a fireproof container, where top and sides. So definitely.
Yeah, and where do you put your grease barrels now? All that, I guess.
And I think the other big question, as Lisa mentioned, was, the ADA compliance and how that's met.
Yeah, Lisa, so when you put on any structure on an existing, do they have to make the whole restaurant ADA?
I'm actually not certain of the requirements, which is why I highlighted it as a possible issue that we need to review and make sure we take into consideration, because it will affect the site plan. But because it is a totally new structure, I remember we went through this with Billy's regarding the restaurant originally, and it was the renovation cost that determined whether or not it was required. Some ADA compliance was required for the restaurant, and it came in underneath the renovation cost that would mandate it. Now that this is a fully new structure being added, it was my understanding that new was different than existing. So perhaps Mike Morbillo can answer that more precisely, since he is the architect. But
we'd have to update our evaluation from years ago, because there is a threshold that once you expend a certain amount of cost into the project, where it triggers certain ADA requirements. So I'd have to revisit that and restudy it, and certainly that's going to be a factor here.
So it's only cost, not square footage?
It's primarily cost. Yeah, cost is the threshold on it.
Wow.
And then would we need to get any kind of Suffolk County approval in place before this?
I mean, as far as from a sewer standpoint?
Sewer, and then, if you're proposing to double your seats, I mean, I thought that always had I thought that triggered like the Department of Health.
So Laura, there is a DPW application, based on seating and basically flow into, the grease trap. But again, I don't know that we're actually doubling our seats. I think it's more like kind of relocating them for the season.
Okay.
Which is something I have to talk about with Michael and Billy, post meeting, just so we can kind of cross our eyes and dot our T's. We can figure that out.
I love it. It's a new saying.
Yeah, I think the fact that you have an exterior grease trap already and the connection was done as part of the original, reconstruction, I think getting beyond the health department isn't a real big lift here. Or DPW.
I agree, Gil. And from my recollection, from when we did the grease trap and the DPW application, I actually believe we're oversized for it's a huge grease trap.
Well, that's good.
I think originally where they were talking about sharing and then it fell through and.
Right.
I'm just trying to think of all the things.
No, it's a valid point.
Just so that when if you're going to go through all this effort, that it's quick.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, Amy, if you're gonna try to, nail down the seating and you said you were going to talk internally there, I wonder if the planning board should ask the Board of Trustees for some input on the amount of seats that would be permitted there, have a discussion in advance, because that determines the size of the deck, right? More or less. So, really, probably the best thing you do is get that information to us, the number of seats.
Yes.
Nail that down. That's important.
I agree, Mr. Chairman. And we also have some homework to do just as far as looking at the different parts of the code that pertain to the seating and how it's calculated. Jennifer was kind enough to point out one of the code sections, so we'll read that. We appreciate everybody's feedback. I think that we have enough at this point to know what direction we need to go in to formulate a plan so that we could hopefully, spearhead this to a nice deck on Memorial Day.
I could echo, I think what Laura said earlier. We appreciate that you're coming to the board to discuss this. It's not always the case, and we appreciate it very much.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for acknowledging that.
Okay. Anyone else, questions or comments or?
I just want to thank the board for their time tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, why don't we move on to the next item then?
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Amy. Good night.
Okay, next up on the agenda, we have not a new application. Hospital. I'm sure, Lisa, you have a lot of people to admit, so I guess you should get started on that.
I just want to clarify, what are we?
I can't hear you, Lisa.
What's the goal of discussing this tonight? Is it to get ready for the public hearing next week?
Yep, to cover any issues that you'd like to discuss further from the January. Oh, sorry, Ray. Go ahead. You were about to answer.
Oh, go ahead, Jen.
And for the applicant to review and sort of summarize the revisions they've made since. I haven't looked at all the material they submitted recently, but it would be nice to hear just, an overview of, where we are now.
Exactly, because the materials came in just a couple days ago, including the plans and the memo that summarized what was done basically and how the previous comments were addressed. So we want to hear a presentation on that from the group.
Jen, besides Anthony Gordino and Courtney Riley, who am I bringing in?
Andrew Kelly, well, I'll let them answer.
Yeah, if you could bring in Dan Winkleman and Andrew Kelly, appreciate it. And then if we need anyone else, we'll let you know.
Okay.
And Lisa, you can bring up the, I guess, bring up a site plan, or I don't know what, you've got access to those drawings, right, electronically?
I could bring it up if that's easier.
Yeah,
It
maybe
might be,
that
might be
Okay.
quicker, I don't know.
Let me just give you permission to share screen. Hold on one second.
In the meantime, I just want to say good evening to everybody from the Mather team. Nice to see you all again.
Okay, so you should be able to share your screen now.
Okay. All right, can you guys see our screen?
Yes.
Great. So I'll let Anthony take the lead.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. As you know, my name is Anthony Guardino. I represent Northwell at Mather in connection with its request to have the planning board approve its pending site plan application. As we just saw, we have Courtney Riley, Andrew Kelly, and Dan Winkleman from VHB all here to assist in the presentation. And I also have several hospital representatives present to answer any operational questions or other questions that the board may have. As far as an update, since the last planning board work session meeting, we've been working to address the outstanding comments, which led to a revised site plan package that was submitted to the planning department back on January 27th. We believe that we have now addressed all of the outstanding comments, and we're looking forward to a public hearing. I believe that's scheduled for February 10th.
That's correct.
Yep, thank you. So in a few minutes, I'm going to ask Dan Winkleman to elaborate on what I'm about to say now, and then I'm going to call on Courtney. But I'm pleased to advise the board that we were able to accommodate the board's request to widen the eastbound lanes on North Country Road following the left-hand turn exit out of the main driveway from the hospital. This includes a curb, thank you. So you can see on the screen, it includes a curb realignment to the south side of North Country Road, and we were also able to significantly increase the width of the mow strip between the sidewalk and North Country Road. So that was something that we were asked to do. So we were able to, VHB was able to accomplish that. With respect to the bus stop, we have, you see it on the plan here, it's relocated to the east side of the main access driveway to a place where there is a greater shoulder width. The sidewalk has been extended to the bus stop, and 2 ramps are proposed to make the bus stop handicap accessible. And our intention is to now make application to Suffolk Bus to determine if they will approve the bus stop in this location. And then the recharge basin, which was another topic of discussion at the last meeting. I think, and I don't know if I hope I'm not overstating it, but I thought we reached at least a tentative agreement with the board to have Mather make improvements to the drainage recharge basin. So that's the most important thing, that Mather will in fact make the improvements to the recharge basin. But its intention is not to make those improvements right away, but first to install all of the new drainage structures that are part of this new site plan and the improvements on the site, see how they function. And also, which is important, is to receive the information from the village as to the extent of the water runoff that the village stormwater infrastructure is depositing or discharging into the recharge basin. We understand that the village has either retained someone or is in the process of retaining an engineer, a drainage engineer, to study the drainage infrastructure in this area and to determine the amount of runoff that is discharging into, when I say runoff, the village's runoff that's discharging into Mather's Basin. And then once the new drainage fixtures are installed on site and we have this understanding of what's going into the site from the village or into the basin from the village, Mather's engineers will be better able to determine the nature and extent of the improvements that they need to make in order to meet the village's requirement for containment. And then finally, to ensure that Mather actually follows through, that we discussed making the drainage improvements a condition of the certificate of occupancy for the ED Surgical Services Edition. And the work, of course, would be secured by a bond. So those were the three items. I would like to call Dan Winkleman now. Dan, I know I probably didn't do justice to these road geometry changes here and modifications. So if you could go over that and maybe talk about the bus a little bit, that would be great.
Sure, no problem. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Courtney, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just so I can walk through it a little bit easier. So hopefully is everybody able to see the screen? Same plan that was up previously?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I am going to zoom in a little bit and we're going to focus in on the main access. Last time we talked, the innermost lane in the eastbound direction was slightly narrower than this, and we were going to look at making that larger. So we were able to accommodate a 12-foot wide lane, and we were able to do that by adjusting the curb on the other side. We went out and we took field measurements of the utility pole and the distance that we have to the curb. So we're able to do that a little bit of shift so that we can accommodate a 12-foot wide inner lane now. And we've also shifted the stop bars slightly so that we can make this turn a little bit more gradual. And we've run simulations of vehicles coming out of the site to make sure that they can stay in their travel lane and not overtake the vehicles next to them. So that was a very good finding. I know that was a concern of the board's. As Anthony noted previously, we did realign the sidewalk, and as I mentioned at the last work session, it would take a little bit of unusual route, and that's just because of the existing utilities that we are dealing with. But as you can see, we were able to provide a very substantial landscape area along that sidewalk, and it only narrows down in this area, but it's still approximately 2 feet wide in this area, and then exceeds it's generally in the 4 to 5 foot range as we go through this area. Another item that we were asked to look at was, and this is in terms of the traffic study, was the coordination of the signal at Belterre and it with Billhorn Way or the site access. So we looked at the volumes, and the generally speaking, the highest volumes were the southbound left turn that comes from Belterre and it filters through here. So what we've done is we've coordinated this traffic signal with this traffic signal so that as the southbound lane comes through, the motorists travel down the roadway, and about at this point, the light will change green and they will be able to free flow through the intersection. And the simulation so that all of the southbound left turning vehicles will be able to go through that intersection based upon the timings. And then the next phase is the release of the eastbound through traffic, which also will be approached by a green light. And at some point within that movement, this light does need to change red to allow Billhorn Way to go, but we'll have much less diminished queues with those clearances basically between the two signals. So we've revised the traffic study and submitted new levels of service tables and synchro reports, which all show improved queues, as well as improved levels of service for both of these intersections. As Mr. Gordino said, we did relocate the existing bus stop to the other side of the intersection. Of course, it would be subject to the review and approval of Suffolk County Transit. And that pretty much summarizes the changes since we last met. Like I said, everything's been updated and included in the revised supplemental traffic impact study. And we've provided this pavement marking plan for the board's review.
Dan, one quick question before you, and I don't know if the other board members have questions also, but can you show that simulation at the hearing?
Yeah, we can. Yep.
Because I think that's, it's one thing to explain it, but to actually see the cars moving, it really goes over well with the public. So that would be an advantage. Okay. Anybody on the board have questions for Dan? Okay. All
All right, thank you.
right.
Thanks, Dan. Courtney, you want to discuss the recharge basin?
Yeah, let me just get the plan up. I gotta steal. You gotta stop sharing if you can, Dan. Thanks. All right. So just want to go through a couple of the changes that were done to the plan since we last spoke. As mentioned before on the, just can everyone see my screen? You guys are good? Okay. All right. So it was requested that additional curbing was added to the north portion of the site. And this is the where physicians with parking would also be. That has been added, and all of that would be repaved. We originally did have a 2,100 square foot building here. That has since been removed. And instead we would just have this concrete pad with a covered maintenance area for any maintenance trucks or lawnmowers. We've also added in some tiered retaining walls that'll hold back the grade between these two parking lots. As Dan mentioned, with the Bill Horn Way, this was all of those parking stalls, as you kind of see here behind in the survey, was taken out. And we've added a sidewalk that again leads to the entrance. And we did add some sidewalk along towards the existing learning center. Additionally, we had curbing that was added to this south parking lot that, as we described before, was in poor shape. That is it from the site civil side. I do want to talk a little bit about the drainage reserve area if we need to. As Anthony mentioned, again, the existing recharge basin is deficient. We are going to be doing that in the future. The intentions are to build the existing drainage system. And as we take off or take out of the drainage reserve area, all of this water that is coming from, the entire 14 acres above us, once that's constructed, as well as once we coordinate with the village on what's going into there, the recharge basin would be evaluated at that time, and we will work with the village to repair it. Does anyone have any questions?
Anybody on the board before we ask Jen Stiegler to go over some of her comments? Okay. Jen, would you like to go through some initial comments on the?
I actually don't have that many comments. Well, my first comment is that I think very pleased at the responsiveness of Mather and VHB. I think the improvements that the planning board wanted, I'm glad that they've been accommodated. Had a question about the height of the proposed retaining walls between the upper and lower lots, approximately.
They're approximately 5.5 feet tall, each one of them. Yes.
Okay.
Each. That's it.
Okay.
That's why we tiered it instead of having one big wall.
Right. Okay. I think that's good. It just sort of adds to the type 2, as you know, our village environmental quality review. Yeah, any walls 6 feet or more on a single slope, but just it's a point of information. And I think I honestly don't have a lot of, I don't have any more questions really. I mean, you've sort of answered it. The medical arts parking area. Any plans? There's curbing along the Bell. There is an absence of curbing along the Belterre Road side. Would that be any plans to include the curbing? Since curbing is being done in all of the other parking areas, is this one staying? I'm really not trying to be nitpicky. I thought from our last meeting, curbing was going to be put in all the parking areas, and I was like, oh, I don't see it there. But
We did
I'll
not.
let the board weigh in on that.
Well, that particular parking lot, there's a slope from the sidewalk on Beltier Road down to the parking lot. So that kind of acts like a curbing. And then they have that little retaining wall with the, I don't know if you call it a retaining wall, with the plants on it, on the lane that goes from Beltier to where the new structure is going to be. So it's that particular parking lot is self-contained because of the topography. So I don't know if it'd be really necessary to put in the curbing at this time.
Okay.
All right. Jen, have we shared the comments we've gotten so far at all? I know the
The
architectural.
ARs, yes, they've gotten, I think, everything that you got so far. And I was confused. I thought I read in the EAF that the DOT weighs in on heliports. Is that correct? Because I got a strange response from the contact person at why are you at the New York State DOT and I even wrote back, maybe I'm mistaken. I was under the impression that you weighed in on approving heliports, but that was.
New York State has an aviation, New York State DOT has an aviation department, and they oversee airports and air traffic. So I would assume that's.
So maybe rather than the person designated to this area to review plans, I just need to find out.
So you are correct. So the New York State DOT does own actually the airspace.
Right.
So the FAA is the one that actually approves the helipad and the location and where it looks like, and according to all the federal regulations. But the New York State DOT does own the airspace. So the application is already into the FAA and we received that approval, and it will also go through New York State. And so they get to weigh in as well.
Okay. They were just on a seeker notification list, but it's great. No, that's good information. The ARC did weigh in. I don't think that they had any objections to the proposed entrance. The schematics that they were shown for the new emergency department.
Great. So do we get something back from the ARC? Because I don't. Maybe
I thought you were copied.
Okay, I'll take a look. I could have missed it.
It was in an attachment with an email sent out. I'm happy to resend.
Yeah.
Let
Great.
me just see.
So is there a separate ARC hearing, or they just reviewed it and
They did meet.
Oh, great.
They met.
And by the way, their comments are dated February 1st, so they're very good.
Right.
Right,
I feel a little bit better then. I feel a little bit better.
Right. Here it is. Yeah. So let me make sure. Maybe. No, I think you're a copy. It was an email sent out yesterday.
Okay. All right.
And there are attachments with, I think, the sewer authority. Who else was in that? All of the responses to the seeker referral I forwarded along.
Great, thank you.
Suffolk County also weighed in.
PSC&G early January.
Right.
The time of the email was 12:47.
On the 1st?
Yes.
Or
hold on. Sorry.
Second, I think. I think it was on the
Second, yeah.
second, right? Yesterday.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Right, and we've been getting a trickle of public comments, which I will send out first thing next week, the ones we have to date prior to the meeting coming up on next Thursday.
It was also sent to Anthony and Dan, so as well as all of us.
I have it.
Yep.
Okay. But Courtney, I can resend if you don't have.
No, I'm seeing it. I actually, I saw that it was addressed to the board members, so I thought it was just our, documents being sent over. I didn't, I see them now though. Thank you.
I recall the Architectural Review Board thought that the addition was consistent with the existing apartment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think they were also recommending perhaps similar treatments to the new entrance whenever that happens, that, for consistency around the building.
And just to get back to the drainage investigation, that's also to determine how many structures the village has emptying into your recharge basin, correct?
Right. So I believe the Board of Trustees are going to approve. We do have a consultant, and I think the Board of Trustees hopefully are scheduled to approve their proposal this coming Monday.
Right. Right. Okay. Jen, did you have anything else you want to bring up?
I don't. I mean, I've just got sort of little minor things that I've looked at so far. But I think it's just better if I summarize them and try and get them to you as soon as possible.
Okay, and the clearing limit that went to the zoning board, right?
That did. The zoning board approved, the clearing limits that you could entertain. So 75%.
But didn't we get a comment from someone, it might have been the Architectural Review Committee, I can't recall, that even though the zoning board okayed it, that there was a comment in there that somebody thought that we as planning should think better of clearing that much?
I think there's concern about surface parking versus a structure, a parking structure. And the ARC comments, I believe, also recommended that the board engage the Conservation Advisory Council. I do think we have a letter, and I will send that out Monday. From someone on the Conservation Advisory Council.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Okay.
But no, my apologies. I haven't had time to sort of go through everything, but I think that they've largely addressed the board's major concerns. And
okay,
it's certainly ready for public hearing.
Right, which will commence on the 10th. For those who are watching, the 10th at 6:30. We will have a work session beforehand on other items, but the public hearing will be held next Thursday, the 10th at 6:30 p.m. Same situation for those watching. If you want to comment, please log in or watch on Zoom and raise your hand. Anyone else who would just like to watch can do so on YouTube, but you won't be able to comment. I'll repeat this on next Thursday before we start the public hearing. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Okay. So we'll see the entire crew again.
We'll see you next week.
Next week, and thanks for coming. I think we're coming to a consensus here, at least in the issues that have been raised. So we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
So we'll
Thank-
see.
yeah.
We'll see what the public has to say, and you know, hopefully there'll be some comments supporting too, as well as people who may have you know, questions or concerns about other items.
Sure. Okay.
All right.
Excellent. Have a great night. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a
Good
good
night.
night.
Good night.
So, Ray, I know we already discussed this application, but a very patient applicant is actually we talked about it before he was in the waiting room. So the Bayview Terrace landscape is here. So I'm going to promote him to panelist so that we can update him on what's going on, and he can answer any questions if there aren't.
Okay.
Scott, are you there?
Yes, I am. How are you?
Hi, good.
Good evening.
Good. So we actually discussed your application first thing. And the board is actually planning to vote on it on at the work session next week. So they just need the final resolution and for this application, but it looks like we're basically in order, and all the walls are just under 6 feet, it appears to me.
Yes,
Is that
they are.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if the board had any other questions or lingering things that weren't answered, or if there's anything you wanted to tell us.
No, I'm just anxious to start, as the owner is. He's trying to move in next week, and it's a mess. So
Yeah.
it'd be nice to try to, for the neighbor's sake, to get the property in order.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll have you sorted out so that I don't know how much work you can do with this snow on the ground.
Yeah. Well, praying
But by the
for,
time the ground's ready, hopefully everything will be ready.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Scott will be discussing this or discussing the resolution and probably and most likely voting on it in advance of the public hearing next week. So we'll be talking pretty much right after 6 p.m. about it. So
okay.
I think it'll be relatively quick
Great
conversation. So
okay, I appreciate it.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take
All
care.
right. You're welcome.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, we have anything else on our agenda for tonight? I don't think we do.
That was tonight's agenda, I believe.
It was.
Okay, so everybody has a mountain of material to look over with Mather. We've got.
Oh my goodness.
I think looking at the comment memo or the responses to the comments is very helpful. That's a 10-page memo, I think.
So so there's 3 different, they look identical kind of.
Right, they're
I'm
not.
confused. Which one is the most?
They are, which is the
one that says planning board members following the 4 November.
That's a good one. And the expanded environmental, because that is the one, Barbara, I know you're particularly interested in it. That is what we need to really listen to about noise.
Yeah.
And so you had mentioned to me that so no screening was ever installed on the medical arts.
No.
I was
and-
under the impression it was.
No, they never had screening. What had happened was the original HVAC units were back further. And what I believe they did was they needed to replace them. So not to interrupt service, they created the new ones, or the structured the new ones as close to Belterre Road as possible. And it's directly across from Westview. So there was never any screening on it. And my complaint started right away, because although Mather says, it's traffic on Westview or Belterre Road, my complaints are 1, 2, 3 a.m. And there is very little, if any, traffic at that time. So we were able, after 5 years, to tone it down by they changed their blades from metal to plastic, or some not metal. And what it did was it didn't change the amount of noise. What it did was change the frequency. So when I went outside, I wasn't always on edge because of the noise. What I find with those units is that when the temperature drops and the AC goes off, it's right now a very, very low hum, which is totally acceptable. But as soon as the temperatures rise up above, this year it was in the low 50s, the ACs would kick in and it's annoying. And that's being polite. So,
Okay.
so there you go. It's not the traffic. So, and you know, when early on, when I did bring up screening, I was told by Kevin Kubek that he couldn't screen them because it would cause a hurricane effect. And I didn't have enough information at that time. I don't think that, you know, depending on what he gets, you know, I've had people say, these screen them in Manhattan, why can't they screen it on top of the medical arts building? So they never attempted to screen those units.
Okay.
They just assumed or claimed that there would be a hurricane effect and they weren't going to even try. So there you go.
Right. On basically the last 2 pages of that comment and response memo that VHB prepared are noise related. Right. It's very technical, but I mean, there is an explanation there and a modeling that's done of a screen around them. So you want to try to take a look at that, and we can ask them to explain it in more detail next week if that's necessary.
Great.
I have a question for some of the, or all of the board members. Have any of you ever worked on projects where, rather than just sort of standard HVAC equipment, heat pumps are used? So either the vertical ones, or they have huge parking areas. They're very quiet. So it's, you know, maybe a larger capital outlay, but they are disturbing a lot of space anyway. I think it's a pity that those aren't sort of, or maybe they were looked at one point, but. Have you ever worked on any projects where I'm just curious about, you know, who does it? I have seen that hospitals are doing them. But
is there anything to require that right now?
No, nothing. It's just, it's kind of a shame, but.
I mean, it was more of an economic incentive. I don't know, I want to say a decade ago, you know, where you were trying to not only do things more environmentally friendly, but, you know, get a return out of it. I know DPW, before I left, we were trying to initiate a project, and I want to say it was at the Board of Elections right next door for years, and we just could never get it off the ground. A lot of it was because of the problems that the equipment was very problematic 20 years ago. It's since improved, and there was talk about it before COVID. I haven't heard really that much about it since, but you know, especially given the type of ground we live on, it seemed to be a, you know, pretty good use for the area, but
yeah,
it's just never taken hold.
That's a shame. I know there's a huge capital outlay initially, but then it virtually pays, well, it pays for itself certainly over time, your electric costs. Just
and a lot of it is dependent on oil prices going up, and you know.
Yeah, no, it's just, yeah, at some point sustainability measures will be a requirement rather than suggestions.
Might be a little bit too late by that point, but
agreed.
Yeah. It's a shame.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't look at I wasn't able to look at the full-size drawings that you dropped off. Is there one on there that shows an overlay of the new parking that they're proposing on top of what's existing, so that we really see what's being removed or hypothetically paved over?
It's a little, you know, if you look at the exit, you'll have to sort of look at two sheets at the same time. There's an existing conditions. I mean, they sort of do it on the first one, but it's hard to see the layer beneath. But if
Okay.
you look at an existing conditions sheet and compare it with what's being proposed.
Because I really think we should highlight that at the public hearing so that people understand. Because when you just look at a site plan and you don't see anything around it and you don't see the overlay on top, you can't really tell, right?
How many acres of asphalt are being proposed? All right.
Yeah.
True.
So
I also think it's, you know, that's the parking model for this area of the country.
oh yeah, flat.
Flat asphalt parking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because, I mean, I'm an engineer, but is it because of our soil conditions? Like it's just so expensive to build? Like I don't,
Expensive to build those structures, yeah.
yeah.
Some ridiculous, what was it, like $30,000 a space or something, once you go aerial, once you go above.
But then wouldn't that save on all the drainage? Because then,
Yeah, but 30,000 space is a lot of money.
But like you said, this is also we run our storm drains and our sewers right into the ground throughout Long Island.
yeah.
Convenient, you know, if we were in an area that was a rock bed 2 feet below, or it was, you know.
Or downtown.
Right, yeah, and, you know.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, when we have the hearing next week, we're not gonna, we're gonna keep it open. We're not gonna close it. We're gonna hear everybody and, you know, keep
Yeah,
the hearing.
I want people to have a chance to comment, right? To be able to
Yeah.
see what's happening and then comment.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Do you think just because there's so much to look at, as you well know, would the planning board want to have this information somewhere where the public could view it prior to the hearing?
Yes, 100%. If we can do that, I don't know if that's.
Well, in the past, they put it in the library.
We've done electric, yeah, and also had electronic
I think electronic
files
would be good.
on the website available.
I believe we did that for Conifer when
Did for
you know, when there's a
and
large project of
440
public interest, we sometimes have done
440
that.
Main Street, we did that. Yeah.
And then when people ask, we could just point them to that direction. I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Are you getting a lot of preliminary inquiries about this project? Because in the past, there's always been, well, it's the hospital, you should let them do what they want to. Are there a lot of people saying, well, what's going on here? Or
Yeah, and I think at least 2 of the letters that I've seen are sort of unhappy at the expansive asphalt parking lots in lieu of a parking structure. But I'll forward. Just been waiting to see what else comes in, but I'll start forwarding everything anyway.
Maybe
on
you don't
Monday.
post all the drawings, selected drawings, because that file for somebody
It's
to
huge.
view is immense. So, you know, you'd have to edit unless you ask them what they'd like.
Right. I may just sort of parse out I don't know that the utility or, I'll try and.
Yeah, I don't think we need the curb details.
Probably not. I think.
Or the drainage structure details. I think just the overview.
Just the plan views, the overall plan, the subsections of the plan, because you need like a key map that's just the overall plan, and then the drawings of the various portions of the site. Maybe the traffic, general traffic, roadway layout.
I'm wondering if we could request also from Mather when they discuss this to really, we've gotten so nitty gritty that haven't really talked about the different phases, right? I would really like to hear, okay, so phase 1, this is what we're doing. Are there still 3 phases?
There are, and
Okay, so
actually
it's like-
most things are being done in phase 1. So all of the parking will be done in phase 1.
Okay,
The
so
drainage.
it's like if they could talk about that.
So explicitly
that's-
spell out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how that might impact traffic, right? With all the construction that's going on and how they plan to have parking for, right? I'm assuming parking will be impacted now. So what's the plan? Because we never talked about all this. We got so involved with the other details.
Yep.
I gotta tell you, Laura, you just reminded me, but I saw a tractor trailer do a K turn on Belterre Road. I thought he was backing into where the surgical, that lane, and he didn't. He was just doing a K turn, and I'm thinking, oh my God. So when you talk about traffic, it's going to be very interesting.
I'm anticipating, if they're doing this, there's going to be an impact on the flow of traffic through their property.
Yep.
How do they plan on having everyone park? Is there a way to get employees to park across the street, or like share some parking across the street at some points? Because I don't know, is that parking fully packed in the daytime now?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's the lower southern lot, the easternmost part of that are where, because it's the farthest away, are where most of the available parking is.
I'm wondering,
but
if
it's about 92% to 95% filled.
I'm just wondering if they could maybe bus their, like have a little bus that takes their employees out there. I don't know, whatever. It's just, I can't even imagine how this is.
No, these are really good things to think about. I have asked, and I think they provided, I didn't really look at it, but just trucking, they're trucking off in a large amount of fill.
Yeah.
And that truck route and the hours has to be sort of
Yeah.
set where construction materials are staged, construction entrances.
There was more than once when they were building this, the ambulatory surgical building, that they were getting deliveries at 3 a.m. And in my younger days, I would get out of bed and go over there and take pictures. But those days are waning very fast.
Just now.
Yeah.
No, it's always difficult. This is going to be an issue with the Conifer 2 project because if you'll notice where all of their stuff is right now, that space, that's the building space. So those are very tight construction spots up there.
Yeah, hopefully they have a construction staging plan in there or notes.
Not yet, but you mean Mather or Conifer?
I'm back to Mather.
Yeah, but that's a very good question to bring up, Laura. And
Yeah,
maybe I'll get them ready to start answering that.
Yes. Well, I'm anticipating if I was a member of the community, what I would be concerned with. Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, so it was parking during this, how they plan on providing parking during their construction, right?
Where the construction entrances are.
Yeah. Vehicle. And like Barbara said, can we limit the delivery times, right? It's awful.
Overnight deliveries are okay, right?
They'll be airlifted in.
Oh my God.
By the helicopter.
New York State helicopter.
All right. Anybody have anything else?
So people can submit comments now in writing, or they can go to the Zoom meeting and then post comments.
And then we've got, we're not closing the hearing. We'll have time period after the hearing so even after the hearing's closed, we should have 30 days or what do we usually? 10 days, I think.
10 days
after the
submit,
close. Because we got to make a decision in 62 days after the hearing is closed, which won't be next week.
The other thing
we also have secret to do, and this is I'm going to talk to Allison about timelines at this point.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Did they ever fix their environmental form? They had so many issues with.
They did, and that's a notebook up there to look at. But yes,
okay. And then
I will look at that.
The other thing we were kind of discussing was because they're a nonprofit and they don't pay any property taxes, we were talking about maybe having some sort of an assessment.
They
like
don't
a
even want to
community
continue
impact?
to bid because they're in the bid district, but they said, we're not going to give you any money.
Okay.
Because bid is based on property tax. And we had talked about, in lieu of the property tax for bid, some kind of payment,
Mhm.
But at that time, it was pre-Northwell Health management.
Mhm.
And they said, we're not going to contribute to bid at all. But, you're right, they're not taxed, and there should be something other than the curbing, along Belfair Road. And
Yeah, right. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
big impact on
Yes.
the community. I know they're a good economic engine as well, so I'm not trying to say there's no benefit to having the
always
hospital.
question that. I mean, at one point they wanted to base uptown revitalization on where the Sunrest Nursing Home used to be, 70
Oh.
North Country Road. Sorry, I go back. And they were saying, well, if you build all these offices, they'll come uptown to eat and things like that. And it never materialized. People, yes, you'll get some people who get in their car and go places, but I always question how much of a economic drive is it?
Yeah, well, I'm really happy to see that sidewalk because I feel like if it's a little more walkable, because if I'm already parked at Mather, like if I don't live in Port Jeff and I'm parked at Mather, I'm not giving up my spot.
No, not at
Right?
all.
So
Yeah,
if now that there'll be that nice sidewalk and they can put in the maybe some nice landscaping, it'll feel safer to walk down in
Yeah.
that direction.
And Gil, I have to say that was a brilliant suggestion to move the bus stop east. That
Oh
would
my
make a big
goodness.
difference.
Yes.
I do see a lot of the Mather Hospital personnel walking. You're right, they do walk around the hospital for their exercise, but I rarely see them go uptown or.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if with the new construction, if there's places to eat, but I mean, even the sidewalk now, I think would facilitate the the two restaurants that are right across the street.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're very right on that.
And the only thing I wanted to bring up, but I didn't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, was, you look at where they've lined up the sidewalk with the existing sidewalk, and it's right at that turn. So you got all these cars going on.
I know.
The sidewalk comes right to the point, which would be nice
They
if
could just.
if they kind of just, okay, move it in. But I figured I'll pick that one up another
We're
time.
close. We got close.
Yeah, I mean, we got it. I mean,
We're getting there.
yeah, and another suggestion, I know when I was with the county and we were doing the sewer projects, we wanted to get the information out to the public, and we had, now granted, we were the client, we had the consultants develop a website for each of the sewer districts, so the plans could be shown, or get the information out to the public. And in this case, I don't know how much, I don't know even how you do it, but how much it would take for VHB or whoever to develop, create a web page where this plans could be posted and people could go and look at them. I mean, that might be an option that they could look at. I'm sure they'll book, but it's just another way to get info out to everybody. So.
Yeah, or maybe, yeah. Okay.
And
I'll
so we
contact
don't,
Courtney.
so we don't close it this next time. Does that mean the following, we have a month then?
I need to talk to Allison about timelines because this is,
We got secret too. So.
we've got, SECRA moving along with this. And right now, I think it may depend on the timeline of figuring out drainage is an important part of this hard look through SECRA. And I don't know what the timelines are for that yet. So I think we'd like to get to a point where all mitigation is proposed so that it doesn't become a very, if we have all the mitigation measures in place, then we can sort of not open it up to a much larger environmental impact state. I mean, I just don't know, and a lot will depend on the information that we gather. I think traffic has certainly been examined pretty extensively, which is good, but I don't know what the timeline for the village's stormwater consultant is yet.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, well, 'cause
but I'll
it's-
keep you guys posted. I
Yeah.
have no information yet, and I don't see that. Allison's probably putting kids to bed. I don't see her here.
Speaking of timelines, I do have a question. When Mather sends out the public notice to the people within 200 feet, shouldn't have we gotten that yet? Or is it still within time?
Yeah. Well, 10 days, right?
Yeah.
Cindy?
That's what I thought.
You're muted, Cindy. Yeah, they would have sent it already, but
you may not have gotten it. So if they were,
okay,
but I think they have to be postmarked 10 days.
Postmarked 10 days prior. So it would have been February 1st. They would have been postmarked. So I would think.
So you should get it any day.
Yeah.
Should get it tomorrow.
And the sign should be on the property too.
I saw the signs, but I go by so fast that I can't read them.
I know.
Is it the new sign or the old sign?
I did. Well, that's a good question, but I did see a new sign right on that curb, and it was kind of like stuck in a bush.
In the snow. Oh, I saw, one on poles in the snow.
Yeah. So, but I was talking to my neighbor who, she's directly across the street. She's 608 Belterre Road. And she goes, "What's that sign across the street?" And I couldn't read it from where I was. I thought it was the zoning board hearing sign. Because it was, weeks ago. But I pick up her mail at the post office for her. And, looking at what I've gotten, I'm sure we'll get it in a couple of days. But the post office has been slower than usual. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else? All right.
Thank
Have
you,
fun
guys.
reviewing the plans and the and the comments and responses. We'll see you all next Thursday night.
Yes, and thank you.
Have a good week.
Sounds
Have a good
good.
weekend,
Bye.
everybody.
Yes,
Bye.
good
Good
weekend.
night.